share the slides. If you can talk us through the common symptoms, and I think most people were aware of the common ones, but then we are seeing some newer ones. So if you can just talk us through that.
Right. So we all know the common symptoms that have been prevailing for the last year, fever, dry cough, tiredness, weakness, loss of smell and taste. With the new strain in the second wave, we have a lot of new symptoms that emerged. These included muscle or body aches. A lot of people had skin rash, uh, conjunctivitis, mouth ulcers, diarrhea, sore throat, and headaches. So make sure that if you have any of these symptoms, you get them tested because there is a chance that it may be a COVID infection. Next
Right.
slide, please. Tapan.
Sorry, one second. So really, this is a question on who should isolate and who should quarantine.
Right.
And if you can
So,
explain what is the difference between isolate and quarantine.
right. So, isolation is for anybody who has been tested positive. Okay. Whereas quarantine is for anyone who has had any type of exposure to COVID. So, if you notice that a person has any of the symptoms that we just talked about, you would immediately test for COVID-19. If the patient is tested positive, then they would isolate. In today's scenario, even if you have not tested positive, so if your test is negative and you do have the symptoms, you would still take the precaution and isolate. uh, Quarantine is for, like I said, anyone who is had any exposure to a patient. So people who are taking care of a COVID patient, for example, should quarantine themselves ideally. People who've been traveling abroad or who've been to a city or town where there have been significant COVID cases, people who have traveled to a crowded place or a social gathering, a wedding or a rally, such, should quarantine themselves once they get back home. Migrant workers, for example, should quarantine themselves when they are going back home. Next slide, please. So, what should the patient do while, in isolation? So, the first thing is get enough rest. So, even if a patient is completely asymptomatic, that means has no symptoms but has tested positive, make sure you just follow these simple guidelines, right? So that you're sleeping well for 8 hours, you're not taking on any strenuous activity. If you're working from home, try to take some time off. um, Drink lots of fluids. This is very important because a lot of symptoms, vomiting, diarrhea, and fever, cause dehydration. So that is a very worrisome condition. So you want to make sure you avoid that. Have home cooked meals, well balanced meals again. So we when we say well balanced, we want, like a typical Indian thali, right? And think of all the things that you would have in it. So you would have your vegetables, you would have your roti, rice, dal, salad, yogurt, right? So a well balanced meal that gives you everything. Avoid outside food, junk and processed foods, absolutely. I do realize that if the patient is completely unwell, if there's nobody to cook, there are a lot of these home cooked tiffins that are also happening nowadays. So try to get a tiffin that is from a home chef or somebody is making at home. You should consult a medical doctor while you are in isolation. Stay in touch with the doctor. The doctor may prescribe some medicines if you have any symptoms at all, and the doctor will also guide you on what medications you should continue if you are already on taking medication. So if you have a chronic condition, you may already be taking some medication, so the doctor will guide you on what you need to continue. uh, Certain things that you need to monitor, such as your temperature, um, and blood pressure if you have a BP monitor at home, and also your oxygen, right? So we'll talk about oxygen later on. So temperature, simply just measure it, 3 times a day, or if suddenly you sense any change in your body temperature, keep a log of it every day. So of all the things that you're monitoring, just keep a simple log of that. Exercise, very important. So while you are in your room, think of what kind of exercises you can do within that space. You can go online, check out a few videos, but move around so that you get, the blood circulation going. It'll also give you some energy and keep you a little bit mentally fit as well.
Yeah, so just on that, I think the expectation on exercise is not to do very intense stuff, but just light.
Correct. Right. And if you have, this is obviously for people who have mild or asymptomatic, COVID. If you have a moderate or a severe, you will not be able to exercise. Also, initially, when people have fever, weakness, they may not be able to do more. So gradually, do some exercises while you're sitting, and then when you feel a little better, you can start walking around in your room. So keep it gradual, keep it slow.
And just on terms of check monitoring, in addition to BP monitor and oximeter, as we'll talk about, also if you are someone with diabetes, please do get a glucometer and monitor that regularly, because I think that's
Right.
one.
Doctors, yeah,
Yeah.
if the doctor has prescribed steroids for you while you are at home, your doctor may also recommend that you invest in a glucometer that will help you check your own blood glucose levels.
Right.
So these are some simple instructions for the care provider. So we're assuming at this point that the care provider is outside, and is making all your meals for you, and taking care of the house while you're isolated. So for the care provider, it's important that you avoid touching the patient. If at any point you need to enter the patient's room, make sure you and the patient are both masked. You can also wear gloves. Double masking is ideal at this time. So just quickly, I just want to talk about masks. There are 3 types of masks currently available. You have a cloth mask, you have a surgical mask, and you have the N95s. Okay, so the N95s are mostly for medical professionals. If you're using a cloth mask, you get about 60 to 70% protection. If you're using a surgical mask along with a cloth mask, that's a really makes up for about 80% of protection. So try to use the double mask if possible. um, Avoid touching your face and eyes. Okay, so while you're wearing a mask, or in general, it's just a good idea to make sure you avoid touching your face and mask. And a good way to do that is, a lot of people use a face shield, right? So it just hampers you from touching your face all the time. Wash your hands thoroughly after every interaction with soap and water. um, if you are cleaning the patient's room, make sure you're cleaning and then disinfecting. Okay, so it's important that you always clean first and then you disinfect with bleach. uh, if you're serving the patient the meals, you can leave them at the doorstep. Okay, you can wash the utensils with hot water and soap, or disposable plates are best if that's possible. Again, use gloves whenever possible. Even while washing dishes, you can use the gloves. Avoid sharing items. This is again very important. So, clothes, bed linen, your cell phone, the mobile phone, that is, or the pulse oximeter, the BP monitor, whatever. Just avoid sharing any of those items at that point. If you are sharing anything, make sure you sanitized everything before and after. The same goes for a bathroom. If you don't have a separate bathroom for the patient in their room, make sure you're always sanitizing the bathroom after the patient has used it. Keep all the waste of the patient in a separate garbage bag. So all the waste that is coming from the patient's room should ideally be bagged separately, including the disposable masks and the gloves that are used. Fever, just we want to go through fever because it's the most common symptom, and we're seeing a lot of fever even in the second week now. So if you have fever in the second week, again, be alert, make sure your doctor knows about it. Normal fever, we know, is anywhere between 98.6 to about 99.5. Make sure you use a thermometer to measure fever. Don't just use your hand to, touch the forehead and the neck, because your hand's temperature could be different. Secondly, try to use the thermometer in the underarm area. If you've had hot tea or coffee, if you use it in the mouth, then again your temperature will change and it'll give you a false reading. So try to use under arm reading. So how do we get rid of fever? Simple. If your body is very hot, what you want to do is cool the body down, right? So the aim is to reduce the temperature. So you will remove excess clothing, you will open all the windows, ventilate the room. All right. Anyways, in the patient's room, try to avoid using air conditioning and try to keep it so that there's natural ventilation through the windows. Put the fan on. uh, this is very important because a lot of times we do the opposite. People think, oh, fever, so put a blanket on the person and cover the person up. So that's completely wrong. We shouldn't be doing that. That is for when a person has chills along with fever. Okay, so if that person only has fever, we need to make sure that the body is going into a cooling state and not into a more warm state. Shower helps with completely lukewarm water. uh, Change into more comfortable clothing if you're sweating a lot. Stay hydrated, again, very important. Since you're losing a lot of fluids through sweat, it's important that you keep drinking water. Wet cloth compresses on the head and neck. I think this is a great, age old therapy that works best for fevers. If you have been given paracetamol, please take the prescribed paracetamol. Rest again, and that should take care of most fevers. So we're not going into detail about the other symptoms. If you have any of the other symptoms, please make sure you're following your doctor's instructions on how to manage them. Um, let's talk about monitoring for COVID patients. One of the things we did say was, fitness is very important. If you're asymptomatic, that's great. You should be able to do your regular fitness regime within the confines of the room. If you have mild symptoms, again, you should be able to do most of your exercises. And if you have any moderate symptoms, so if your symptoms are getting a little bit severe, then you have to take something called the 6-minute walk test. And this is basically to test how your lungs and your heart are working, right? So this test assesses the functions, and also to check if your oxygen level is dropping at any point. So take the 6-minute walk test every day, and then you keep a log of the oxygen saturation at the end of the 6-minute walk test. So we'll just talk about when and how we take the 6-minute walk test. So it's a simple test wherein you're just checking how much distance you can travel within those 6 minutes. So it can be done on any flat surface. You can do it without your shoes. Just make sure it's a flat surface. You can even do it on a treadmill if you have one. So after about, let's say an hour or two after your meal is probably the best time between meals to do it. So you time yourself before you get on to the test. You take a pulse oximeter and measure your oxygen levels. Okay, you can even measure your BP at this point. You walk for 6 minutes and then sit down, and then again check your breathing and your pulse oxygen and your BP. There's a little scale which you can use to check where you are. So it's basically to check your breathing levels. Okay, so if you have any difficulty very, very slight, and it goes all the way up to maximum. So you keep a track of this. If you are in, let's say, the orange after 5, if your breathing difficulty is 5 or more, you should notify your doctor right away. All right. And that is basically telling you that you are having problems with your lungs. Your lungs are not supplying enough oxygen to your muscles. Again, at any time during the test, if you experience severe shortness of breath or chest pain, cramps, sweating, please stop the test right away and call your doctor. So, just a little bit about what is blood oxygen. I think there are lots of questions on what is the oxygen level and when we need to go to a doctor and things like that. So, normal oxygen level is about 95% or higher. Again, in some people, this can vary. So, everybody has a different normal. Some people have a normal which is 99%. Whereas older patients or people with chronic conditions such as a lung disease or asthma may have a oxygen level that could be 89%, as low as 89%. So make sure you know what your normal is. If from the first day that you've got COVID, if you measured, you'll know what your normal is, and so how much it drops. Nowadays, if you even doctors say if it drops up below 92, then you go to the doctor. So make sure you stay in touch with your doctor and follow your doctor's advice. So the best way to ideally check blood glucose in a hospital would be to do a simple test by measuring the blood gas in your arteries. So it's called an arterial blood gas test, which is an ABG test. At home, it's simple, and we just use a pulse oximeter that is used. So this picture just shows kind of pulse oximeter that you get now. It gives you the number. So the 97, that is showing you how much oxygen you have. And then next to it is your heart rate. So 72 over here would be your heart rate. So all you have to do is simply just switch it on, put it on your index finger or your middle finger, and wait till the number goes up, and it will give you your reading. Make sure that there are certain things that can hamper your reading. So if you have nail polish, remove your nail polish. If you have dirty fingers, wash your hands. If you have any poor blood circulation, again, it may hamper that. Tremors, for people, old people who have hand shaking, make sure, the hand is on a table or something before you take the reading. If you have low BP, again, it is going to affect your reading. And bright lights. Bright lights is because this is just the technical thing, because that's how the pulse oximeter measures the oxygen in your fingers by the light that goes through. So if you are in a very bright light area, it will hamper your reading. So most important is that when do we seek medical attention? We are in a state where we don't really want to go to the hospital, and in this third wave it's getting really difficult to find beds and things. However, if there is any of these situations, you need to make sure that you contact your doctor right away. So the patient needs to inform their care provider, and the doctor that they have been consulting till now should be called right away. So first things to look out for are signs of low oxygen. So if you have sudden difficulty in breathing, even when you're at rest, even if you're sitting and all of a sudden, you feel like you're choking or you cannot breathe. If you have any shortness of breath, if you have fever in the second week, again, you need to get in touch with your doctor. Confusion, if you don't know where you are, you have sudden headache, dizziness, your heart is palpitating, your heart rate has just gone up, your BP has shot up all of a sudden, if you've got paleness on your face or blue discoloration in your fingers and nails, cough, wheezing, You are not able to get up. So this is another common one where you're not able to get up after lying down or get up after sleeping. So difficulty in waking up is a big one. In children, drooling is a common sign, and breathing through the mouth, so that their nose is they're not breathing through the nose, but the mouth is open and they're breathing through their mouth. So make sure you watch out for any or all of these.